Terrarian in the Dungeon, Chapter 41b and 42, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. Ace, on the other hand, literally only got the shield, so she was just pouting as she poked my shoulder. "What does the sword do?" she asked, looking at the thinner, more manageable sword. I actually had to recall its effect before I smiled, as actually, it wasn't at all useless. If something is cut or harmed by the sword, it's conceptually cursed for 1 minute to lose half of its strength and durability. I had to make the sword disappear into my inventory as Ace's hand snatched for it and her pout became apoplectic, not even desperate, as she looked up at me and I could see the thoughts in her head. What if the black dragon was literally at half strength? Could her father have killed it with such a curse upon it? A truly loud and brutal bonking noise that far eclipsed my head but on Apollo rang out, as Riveria nonchalantly brought her staff down on Ace's head, making the blonde's eyes go cross-eyed at the blow. Chapter 42. As Ace crouched down holding her head as she looked up to Riveria, tearfully pouting with her bottom lip actually quivering in distress, I couldn't help the thought crossing my mind. I mean, Riveria actually drowned Ace when she called her an old hag. Maybe she legitimately isn't an airhead and actually has some brain damage due to always being conked over the head by superhumans. I shook my head at the thought and mentally reminded myself to be careful with any kids I interact with, as I didn't want to accidentally hurt them, as I was already getting used to only interacting with people with superhuman physiques. "Ace, what have I said about taking things from people?" Riveria said imperiously as she leaned over Ace, whose pout only deepened with her even blushing a bit in embarrassment at being scolded in front of so many people, including myself, who wasn't used to Riveria taking the Loki members to task as their den mother. "You said not to." "Jake, how much are you selling the sword then?" she asked as she looked away from Riveria, who rolled her eyes at Ace's act in getting out from under her gaze. "I'm not selling this one as it's my first one and going into a display case if I don't craft it into something better later on." But the Loki Familia literally had dozens of people who attacked the boss. "I bet there are members who got the sword and won't mind selling it to you if they are mages or something," I offered, and she hurriedly nodded before bowing to me. "Thank you, Jake. Getting stronger is all I care about, and I have grown more from killing those bosses than going on shallow expeditions past Rivera. So, thank you again." Ace strongly thanked me as she stared into my eyes to convey her seriousness after she came out of the bow. I nodded in understanding, as I knew her goal in killing the one-eyed black dragon, though I knew she was far from its match, as Albert, her father, was some kind of sword saint who could do cultivator bullshit with his pure sword skill, being able to cut through space and time, and was such a Chad that he could impregnate his spirit wife to make Ace. Which wasn't possible. Spirits were literally entities coming to life from the world itself and were the closest thing to a god. Give me a week or even just a few more days and I will have a bunch more accessories you can wear that's far less of a pain than my other things. You will get much stronger with them. I added on, as I knew for my level 2 mod, I was going to get Fargos, which was going to make myself and the people I sell the enchantments far stronger simply by wearing the pins. "I will be there, Jake. Do you want some sword training to beat Apollo?" she asked me after a moment of thought and chewing on her words. The Loki Familia cannot be seen favoring another Familia about to get into a war game, Riveria said tiredly, and Ace blinked at the elvish princess before she covered her mouth with both hands and spoke towards me so no one could read her lips. "Will you meet me atop the wall of Ororio to spar, and I can tell you about the deeper floors of the dungeon tonight?" she asked, and Riveria just facepalmed, throwing up her hands at Ace's poor attempt at being subtle. "Sure, Ace, it's a date. I will see you tonight with all the potato snacks you can want," I said with a grin as Ace cocked her head to the side and Riveria snorted as Ace nodded slowly. "Yes. I suppose our meeting alone with food being shared between us would be a date." "Riveria, what else do I do on a date?" Ace asked Riveria, who choked on her laughter as Tiona burst into laughter. Mama, Riveria is a century-old Christmas cake with no dating experience, and can't tell you, Ace," Tiona teased, and a vein popped out on Riveria, who slowly turned to the Amazon, who gulped under the murderous look of the level 6 angry elf. "Yeah, that's my cue to flee. See you guys. We can fight the other bosses later," I muttered at the end as Finn, to no avail, tried to hold back Riveria from bonking Tiona's head with her metal and crystal-studded staff. Just as I went to teleport, Ace, who was standing beside me, grabbed onto my arm, and with the standard blurring of my vision, I ended up in my room with a blonde beauty hanging onto my arm as she shook away her disorientation at the teleportation. "So, any reason you hitched a ride?" I asked, and Ace nodded with little emotion. Yes, Apollo may empty his coffers to hire an assassin to kill you on the way to the guild. It's happened before to familias with only a single strong or couple strong members. She explained. I will protect you, and when you make those accessories, I want 3 for free. She said proudly at her negotiation skills while holding up 3 blue-gloved fingers to show her price for acting as my bodyguard. I sighed, just nodding as her following me wouldn't actually harm me, even though making her the accessories enchantments from Fargo's would be a bit of a pain due to the pure time it would take to make them, I imagine. But the sight of the Sword Princess, a strong level 5, would drive away a good number of assassins who may choose to make an attempt on my life. This made it worth it in my book, as my actions as of late have brought the guild's attention onto me and they obviously wanted to find some way to get some authority over my city-changing actions. Causing widespread destruction when level 3 or 4 assassins attempt to kill me could very well give them the excuse to attempt to censor me from guild facilities which I needed. Alright, follow me to the guild I guess, I spoke shrugging as I walked out of the room, and as I came out into the center of the shop, I saw how Hestia and Seshet had rigged up a system using their divine light detector sensing to ask the people wanting to come in if they were going to cause issues. How business, girls? I asked, and out from under a desk I saw Belle and Beatrice loaded up with potions they were restocking into the cabinet. Jump up. Jake, you're back. Why is Ace Wallenstein with you? Beatrice called out while Belle all but cried out in surprise, and I shrugged. Well, things happened, and you know I got to go settle the date in the guild for the war game, so Ace volunteered to walk me there, then me and her are going to go on a date or something, I said flippantly, and Seshet only shrugged. That's fine, I don't like stress, so go in my name and I will come out of the safety of this home when the actual war game Donatus is called to decide what form of challenge the war game will take. Seshet responded equally as flippantly as obviously Belle had told them all in great detail what had happened today. Jake, are you going to be alright? I mean, I can't really fight. Beatrice said weakly, and I patted the cowgirl between her horns. Yeah, don't worry, Beatrice, I will be fine. I can deal with them alone, to say nothing of me summoning a monster Rex and leaving it to clean up their familia. I said confidently, as physically I was the match of a level 2 with how my stats were reaching the peak and I was ready for a level up at any point now. I just wanted to finish filling them out, so I got a strong foundation. Anyway, I am going to the guild to deal with the details. Belle, you got the money home, right? I asked, and Belle strongly nodded. Yup. I even used a small cart filled with firewood to disguise the money bag, so I didn't get bugged at all. Belle said proudly at her achievement. And even Hestia cheered on Belle, making the white-haired beauty grin even wider. Jake, the guild's going to close, we need to go, Ace said, duly cutting through the atmosphere, making Hestia pout and I Ace with an angry look, who just blinked and paid the short goddess no further mind as she took my hand. Then we walked out of the store and into the tower, with her walking stopping as she looked up into the false stars above us. This is nice. Did you make it? She asked, and I nodded. I made most of all this, but the stars Seshet placed with her domain of rituals as she knows where all the real stars needed to go, I explained with Ace taking a breath before shaking her head. Let's go. She simply spoke, and thus we left the tower into Oreo, walking towards the guild, but I noticed the Ace was filled with tension as she held on to her sword.